Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Pint-Sized Preview. Not much to talk about this week, said nobody ever. We've got lots to talk about from Tuesday's game and look ahead to some cup action, which really couldn't come at a better time following Wycombe's recent league form. Joining me tonight is Aaron. Evening, mate.
Evening, George.
How are we doing? All right?
Yeah, all good, mate. Yeah?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Are you having a drink tonight?
I have, yeah. I've got a bottle of Madre. Back on that.
Oh, good choice. Going back to basics this week.
Yeah.
And also joining us for a little while anyway is Chris. Evening, mate.
Evening, George. You okay?
I'm not so bad, mate. How you doing?
Not bad. I'm a little bit worried about Aaron. He said he's been really poorly this week and really unwell. He's not been too unwell, but he can't go to a pub for the afternoon straight after work as well. But pray for Aaron. Will he be there on Saturday? Who knows?
I'm sure I'll turn up.
Oh dear. Even more worrying is Thomas is unwell. So fingers crossed. He might not be there Saturday.
I was going to say a bit of peace and quiet, but it might be too quiet without him that the players doze off on the pitch.
I know, God.
Right, I mean,
be quite unnerving.
I know that Chris, you're going to have to shoot off at some point, so let's just sort of jump straight into it then. Where to start, really? I mean, the best place to start is obviously discussing the goal and what happened in the lead up to it. I mean, a lot of back and forth today between various people. Was it a foul? Was it not a foul? The laws of the game state if the goalkeeper's got the ball in two hands, the players they can't challenge him. Whether it's a challenge or not is the grey area. What's your take on it overall, Aaron?
I don't think it's a foul. If it's not the goalkeeper, it's not a foul to anyone else in the pitch. He's literally just bumped into him. I think we've said it before that goalkeepers get too much protection, and I think if that's given as a foul, everything when you get near a keeper's got to be at that point. I don't know what he's thinking to mess around like that in the last minute of the game. I thought it was an alright performance up until then, to be fair. I thought it was improved from the last couple, and then just a moment of madness has undone it all, basically.
I mean, before the moment, I think Max actually had a really decent game, made a few big stops when Barnsley, really put us under some pressure. I mean, what is he thinking, Chris? What is going through his head when he invites a player to jog 50 yards and still is able to come up with that?
No idea. As you said, it had a good performance up until that moment. It felt like it was a kind of performance where he's rebuilding his confidence. As a whole defensive unit, I thought we were really strong for the majority of the game. He didn't have what we'd say any particularly outstanding saves to make. Everything he did, you'd expect him to do, but he did it comfortably, did it well, dealt with crosses really well, which we've had a criticism of in the past. I think the moment actually, in a weird way, that he did really well in was the cross which came from the left. When the defenders were going from one side and he came out and he made a decision to leave the ball. Again, really good to see. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to see in the highlights reel. But 9 times you're going to go and get for the ball, and that's a kind of challenge where you can see something going wrong. In terms of the last minute, well, look, we've seen him in the past. Trying those situations to time waste, to slow the game down, and you can see quite clearly what he's trying to do. He's trying to initiate the contact to then bring on what he's hoping and anticipating will be a free kick, to again take some more time out as well. And I think it's one of the cases where the laws of the game state it is a foul and it should have been given as a foul, but it's whether or not we as football fans view it as one that should be given as a foul or not as well. My personal opinion is, yes, there's contact, but the contact is that minimal that the fall to the ground isn't really warranted, and ultimately it's the fall to the ground that causes him to land on his arm, which means he drops the ball as well. And that's all very deliberate by him as well. So for me personally, I would say morally it probably shouldn't have been given as one as well. And it's hard to say, it's sickening. isn't it? Really, when you put in what I would say is a decent performance, a point away from home against any team is, always like a massive positive. And to put in that much hard work and to come out of it with no points after such a ridiculous kind of goal is just sickening. I mean, for you, George, because you travelled there, didn't you, overnight? And I know, was it you got back at 3 a.m?
Yeah, 3:10. It was a long old drive home, I'll tell you that much. We've spoken an awful lot, haven't we, in recent weeks about poor refereeing performances. It seems to happen every week. We get a big result go against us, and obviously the goal being given, again, grey area. The laws of the game suggest it should have been disallowed. But overall, I think Drysdale had a really good game. Actually, let for an awful lot. I mean, I think he got it right, but I'm interested to hear your two views, whether or not it's a case of common sense prevailing because the contact is so minimal and the way that Ziyech has chucked himself to the ground.
I mean, the problem with common sense, and I saw Jamie Kettlewell put this on Twitter as well, Gate, is that then comes into interpretation and like your views on what should and shouldn't be given. And the problem with common sense is then, you don't have consistency from match to match. And actually, we complain when we watch Premier League football, when we watch League One football, that there isn't that consistency as well. And that decisions we see are given one week and not necessarily given another. And how many times do we hear, we've seen that given before? So I think, as much as we may not necessarily agree with the laws of the game, what they're designed to do is to make it very explicitly clear that in particular situations, what's going to be given and what isn't. Again, I look at it and I personally don't feel that it should be given as a foul because I just don't feel the contact is sufficient enough to warrant him going to the ground. But the laws of the game do state that if goalkeeper's got two hands on the ball, any contact from one player onto another should be given. So you look at it from that side, but I think, if they're honest, I'm sure in the private conversations that Matt and most of the team will look at it and thinking, actually, he's made a meal of it. And, biggest person to look at is Max, unfortunately.
Chris mentioned there, Aaron, that that the coaching staff are going to sort of move on from it. They've said very publicly tonight that they've swept under it, put it under the rug. Are you surprised in the way he came out on Tuesday evening and sort of, he was very 50-50, wasn't he? He didn't say it was Max's fault, but he didn't say definitely it was a foul. Are you surprised he didn't lean one way or the other?
Not really. I'm not surprised. I'd be amazed if he ever came out and blamed one of our players. I don't think I know we've seen it with the odd few managers. Most managers don't, and I don't think Bloomfield's the type of player that would, type of manager even, that would come out and criticise his players in public. I'm sure, like Chris sort of alluded to, behind the scenes, possibly they've had the conversation and he's probably told him that it was his fault, but he's not going to come out publicly and do that. In terms of not blaming the ref, I don't think the ref did anything wrong. I don't think it was a foul. I think it was fair as it stood, and I don't really see the issue with it from that point of view.
Do you think Max's reaction sort of gave it away, the way he tried to make amends so quickly? He didn't stay on the floor, did he? He got up instantly, tried to grab the ball. Do you think that swayed the ref against him?
Possibly a bit.
I just think there was no contact. That's what swayed him. There was just, and you see it after. You look at it afterwards. The angles show it, but it was just he went down like a sack of spuds, didn't he?
I mean, the angle that you get on television is sort of very. It looks like he's been nudged quite severely, doesn't it? It looks like he's had a push. The angle behind the goal they released yesterday is telling. There's minimal contact. There might be two hands on his arm, but it's not enough to send him over. And then the actual fall itself hasn't made him release the ball. It's his landing, the way he landed with the ball, that's made him pop it out. I mean, cup game this weekend, then does that sort of give Bloomfield a chance to maybe give Ravazoli a go without, I guess, looking like it was the mistake because cup goalkeepers and all that malarkey?
Right, I'm going to give you an answer. It's going to be a long-winded answer, and by the end of the long-winded answer, all you're going to start to think is I'm still sitting on the fence. So here we go. This is my long-winded answer, and I've been thinking about this all day and yesterday, just in anticipation of this question, George. So we will have our opinion of Max, and there will be some fans, I'm sure, who will profess to knowing Max and knowing what his personality is like and how it's going to affect him. We make the assumption that because of a mistake and mistakes that have happened before, that his confidence is going to be low, and I imagine what it probably will be. However, none of us will know Max in the way that Matt will know, and also the coaching team. And I think the thing to consider with him is, after 10 months of his Wycombe career, pretty much, we were all in unison that if he wasn't the best keeper we've seen, he was certainly in the top 2, top 3. And he's still that same goalkeeper. He hasn't suddenly become a Brian Parkin over the night. He's still one of the best goalkeepers we've got. The difference we've seen in this season, which we saw very, very, very rarely if at all last year, is mistakes that were costing goals. So at his very best, he is one of the best goalkeepers in the division. And actually, I think what we need for him to get back to is putting in those performances regularly, like the way that he'd done. And I think ultimately, whatever decision Matt makes and the team makes, and whether that be for Saturday or for more permanent going forward as well, the decision he's got to make is actually how is it going to get the best out of him, out of Max, and how is it going to get him to perform to his best again. And he has got a decision whether or not he drops him or not. That is a big decision either way, and either way it's going to be open to criticism as well. There will be some goalkeepers who dropping them, depending on their personality, will give them that opportunity. But again, at the same time, there will be other goalkeepers as well where that's going to really make a big difference. The one person who does benefit out of this massively is Ravizoli, because I think it was a kind of game, and it was with that mistake, but actually you become a better player by not playing. We all go on now, we see it on social media, but how people quickly saying that he should be in the team as well. And actually what we don't know, had he played in that match, would he have been as comfortable with the crosses that Striek was? Would he have made the same decisions before? It's very well possible that actually we may have lost that game 1-2, 3-0. With it, we just don't know. So I think that's really the question. What's going to benefit him going forward? And a lot of that will depend on what he's like as a character, and the people who will know that are going to be Matt and the rest of the coaching team. So basically, no idea.
There's still a little bit to talk about, I guess, with the incident before we move on to the game as a whole. We've mentioned Striek's confidence sort of not being on the floor, Aaron, have we, but being quite low. Is this moment a direct consequence of that, or is it its own entity completely? He's fucked up, he's made a mistake. But is that coming from his recent confidence blip?
I'm not sure it is, to be fair. I think if it was like he'd not come for a cross or something and it had kind of somehow gone in, then we could kind of say, yeah, that's his confidence. He hasn't come out for it. But it's nothing to do with him not coming for something to claim it or commanding his area. He's just tried to be clever and time waste and completely fucked it up, basically. And we know he's tried to time waste, and well, most Wycombe goalkeepers have, but he's tried to time waste when he's been with us and tried to kind of buy little free kicks and yeah, he's just completely got it wrong, messed it up. It's not a foul. He's screwed up there.
I know a lot of rival fans on the internet have been sort of giving us stick for it, saying, well, Wycombe, the champions of time wasting, it's finally bit him on the arse. Chris, is this sort of revenge for all those years of winding teams up that it's finally it's come back and haunted us?
No, not really. Look, other clubs will profess to be holier than thou, they don't time waste, and it's a load of bollocks. Everybody does it. How many times will we see clubs come to us when it's 0-0 and they deem that to be a good result, or 1-0 up, and they time waste the hell out of a match? Every team does it. Ultimately, when you're playing a match, each side will try and play at a tempo they're most comfortable with. They'll have, their idea of what they want to get out of a game as well. And when you're the away side, and when you're looking to get a draw or a point. I think it's your right to be able to play the game and to try and control the game at the speed that you want to. And in that situation, 91 minutes, bloody few hundred miles away from home, against a team challenging for playoffs, a point is a good result. Every other side will do it. Just dropped a bollock, didn't he?
Does it make it more annoying than the timing of it more than anything? 0-0 away from home play very late in the game, and that happens. Does that sort of add to the frustration of the fan base and the squad?
Yeah, because it was a great result until that, and that happens 10 minutes into the game. You think, all right, it's a mistake. We've got probably 80, 90 minutes of added time to fix it. At that point, the game's done, and as soon as that happens, no one's expecting us to come back from that.
I mean, let's sort of talk about the game in general then, because I don't want to waste too much time talking about that incident. I think, as Matt said, it's done now. It's best swept under the rug, but it's something that we've got to talk about and mention because it is such big news. I think the way that's gone viral just about sums it up. But the performance on a whole from Wycombe, defensively very good, but attacking wise, it still leaves a lot to desire, doesn't it, Chris?
It does. I mean, again, if you block off the performance, I think most of the game defensively strong. Midfield play, some good moments as well. It was up front. I did think there were signs, late, early on. I think that there were signs that there were chances. And I think later on, the play, particularly between Sadlier, McCleary, and so was pretty good. It looked useful. Not saying we would have necessarily scored, but actually, no, it looked all right. But anyway, guys, I'm going to have to leave, I'm afraid. I've just got to go and sort a few things out. So, see you Saturday.
See you later, mate.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you. See you soon. An individual performance that I want to mention and was Kian Breckin. He's not had too much game time, but in a more defensive role on Saturday, it seemed to suit him a bit, didn't he? He got a bit more stuck in than we've seen from him recently. I think his debut against Milton Keynes was very lackluster. Not what anyone was expecting. We haven't seen him much since, but he's obviously been given instructions from Bloomfield and actually executed the position perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, when the lineup came out, I know we were on the group chat, and I was like, "What on earth is he playing at?" Away at Barnsley, and he's put in a player that's played a couple of games and looked pretty poor. But fair play to the lad. He's come in. He's done pretty well, to be fair. Whether it's the change of position or just a few more weeks with the squad and with the club, and he's kind of settled in, and I don't know. But yeah, playing a bit more defensive seems to suit him. If he plays like that, he'll get games with us. So hopefully it continues.
Do you expect to see him sort of a few weeks in a row now after that performance? Do you think he's sort of nailed in that position while Potts and Co are still injured?
Yeah, I guess it depends how long the others are out for. I think I would imagine he'll possibly get another run out in the Cup at the weekend, especially as he's kind of been short on minutes lately. It depends how long Freddie Potts out for. As soon as he's back, he surely comes straight in the team.
Mm-hmm. I suppose one more negative then from Tuesday is the red card for Harry Boyes. Injury issues and now a suspension. How does Bloom sort of work around that, and how do you think he's going to sort of change it up to combat?
I don't think it's the worst player to get sent off, because at least it's somewhere we've got a few more options and we can kind of change the shape of the defence round. Had it have been like Scowen or someone and left no one in midfield, it would have been a bigger issue. The red cards, it's just frustration, isn't it? It's just frustration at the game, frustration probably at the mistake and his team. Yeah, and luckily we've got the cup game that he'll miss that, and it's not like a massive away league game or something he's going to miss.
Yeah, I mean, let's look ahead to the cup game then of Morecambe in round 2. So we sort of agreed before we've gone live that we're not expecting a huge crowd or atmosphere. Whose hands is that going to play into more? Do you think it's going to play into Morecambe's hands, or do you think that Wycombe might, because of the low crowd, have a point to prove, and maybe that will urge them to get into round 3 to bring those fans back?
You'd imagine we as a club have got a point to prove, and a fair few of the players from the last week of, if they get a chance, either coming into the team, it's their chance to say, look, the rest of them haven't performed, here I am. And if he gives chances to players that have played and haven't performed, maybe if Max stays in the team or someone like that, then it's his chance to to kind of say, actually, I am good enough. I am at my best, and I can pick it up from here. That, yeah, like we said, there won't be many people there. I don't think it probably won't be the best game. And I hate to say it, I'm not sure how we'll do against them. They've always kind of seemed to find a way of frustrating us. And at the moment, they're the last team we probably need to play.
I watched a video on Twitter actually by I think it's Brian's Gun. I'm not sure if you're aware, but they basically make montages of those sort of cheesy sayings in football. And today's one was about bogey teams, and I'm pretty sure Ainsworth was on there talking about Morecambe, just in time as well. But Morecambe very much out of form like we are. I think they've got 1 draw in 6. The rest of them are defeats. But obviously Wickham winless in 7 in the league. We've had a bit of fortune in the cup games. Are you expecting it to be a game between 2 out of form sides, or do you think that both might come into it with a little bit of freedom to go and enjoy themselves in the cup?
You would think for them it's a bit of freedom. They've got less to lose. They're a league below us, and they're away from home. And if they lose, no one probably really says too much. Whereas if we lose, you can imagine online and the fans kind of melt down afterwards. And what would that be like? 2 months without a home win or something, I think I saw online. And yeah, for us, it's a massive loss if we lose that. For them, it's kind of expected and fair play if they get a result.
I mean, talking about the potential of Wickham losing, what do you think that will do upstairs in terms of, I think there's been a lot of noise in the last week or so that a certain someone is available again. The results haven't been coming for whatever reason. Obviously, regardless of that, a new contract has just been given to Blooms. But, if Wickham lose this weekend against a team, as you say, in the league below, there's going to be a huge uproar on social media.
There will be, but I don't think the club and the owners all get too involved with that. And Bloomfield's just got a new contract for a reason, regardless of kind of the run we're on. They obviously believe he's the right man and he's going about things in the right way and kind of building for the future. I don't think we'd get rid of him at any point unless things got really, really bad. And if we go out the cup, I don't think they'll look at it too much.
Mm-hmm. Just before we start to sort of wrap it up, then, because it's one of those games where there's not too many talking points, is there? Really, it's a quite boring tie. In all fairness, a good chance to get to round 3. But who are you excited to see this weekend? Hopefully coming in to make an impact.
I don't know out of the kind of the B team and the youngsters who's kind of injured and just not kind of making it. I think Declan Skura, if he's fit, would be, especially with the kind of the issues we've had with players being fit and that, give him a chance. He's looked good in the Papa John's or whatever it's called now when we've seen him. Even if he hadn't been out of form, I would kind of be expecting Ravazoli to come in and kind of. I haven't seen any of him in the cup games. I haven't been to them, but kind of the reviews seem good and the penalty save that I've seen looks good. So I'm quite excited to see what he can do. And then, yeah, they're probably the main two. Maybe a couple other players coming back from injury. Might see a bit more. Well, Grimmer went out with a knock again, didn't he? But maybe a bit more Grimmer back or someone like that. Yeah.
I mean, we're expecting a changed team, but actually, it's. I don't think Wickham can afford to go for a strong team, can they? We saw a really, really strong team at Bradford, but obviously with the Christmas period coming up, I think it's going to be forced to make a few changes. And I think that might, as you say, play into certain players' hands. A lot of the B team players are wanting to make an impact. But with the striking options, perhaps a chance for TJ DeBar to get a good amount of minutes and make an impression as well.
Yeah, you would expect him to start. JJ possibly as well, back on the bench the other day. It's the kind of game that you may as well chuck him in. It's a good opportunity if TJ starts and scores a couple, then the other strikers aren't scoring. Why not put him in the league? But yeah, we can't make too many changes. We haven't got the players fit, but equally you can't probably risk starting someone like Dale Taylor and then finding we've got no one to play up front in the coming up league games.
I mean, I think that just about wraps it up. I do want to mention as well that obviously next Tuesday we've got the game against Fulham's under-21s. I mean, 2 cup games back to back. A lot of people have said that we could, fancy a run in that competition this season. Obviously, a big game in round 3 would be nice in the FA Cup. But is there a chance maybe that sort of Bloomfield looks ahead to a whatever it's called now, Bristol Street Motors Cup run, rather than risking too many players this weekend?
Yeah, possibly. We've got a chance of actually getting to Wembley in that. I know everyone kind of takes the mick out of the cup, and I'm not a massive fan of it, and there's a lot I don't agree with in it. But if we get to Wembley, let's be honest, most people will turn up. So it's a chance to get there. It's a chance to win something. And Bloomfield, as a young manager, imagine other teams in our kind of size of club have done it. Imagine if he wins that in his first sort of full career as manager, you can't argue with that.
Would that, I know we're sort of getting on topic from the FA Cup, but would that mean a good season for Wycombe? Let's say we sort of finish the season where we are at the minute in sort of a lower mid-table position, but we get to Wembley, win or lose in the Bristol Street Motors. Does that equal a good season for Wycombe and Bloomfield?
Probably not the most popular opinion, but yeah, I reckon if we finish, I don't know, somewhere between 10th and 14th kind of thing, comfortably away from the bottom few, and then win a trophy for a transitional season and a first season as manager for Blooms, you can't really fault that, and strength to build on going forwards, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess last few questions then. Obviously, we've got to win the game on Saturday first, and then I'm sure that if we get to the round 3 draw, we'll do a live stream or something when the draw's on. But who would your dream tie be in round 3?
Someone we haven't played before, someone that we're probably not going to get to go to otherwise. So I will say Everton before they kind of move out of Goodison, or a day out in London, somewhere like Palace away, or just something different that we're not going to get the chance of if we don't get there.
Yeah. And finally, then the most important question: predictions for Saturday.
I'm going to go for a win. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to say 1-0 Wycombe. But like we said before, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a bit of a horror show and it's 0-0 and scrappy.
I was going to say the one thing we probably want to avoid is a Tuesday night trip to Morecambe in the festive period, don't we? So I wouldn't be surprised if Max drops another clanger in the 90th minute just to avoid a replay if it comes to that. Just turns on and throws it in his net instead of giving it to the striker.
Yeah.
Well, I think that just about sums it up. We've got a score prediction in from Sam. He's going for a 3-2. I assume Wycombe win. Just a few things to mention before we go off air. Christmas cards still available to purchase. A little bit of a good uptake last night, so please continue to support and get involved in that. And one more thing to any rival fans watching, please stop giving me shit for Stryjek's mistake. I've seen it thousands of times now, and somehow I'm getting the blame for the referee not giving it. I'm getting a stick for the referee giving it. It's not down to me. It's down to Max and the referee himself. But thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Aaron for joining me and Cheers. Chris for the 15 minutes we spent together tonight. We'll be back next, not Sunday because it's Mickey Mouse Trophy, but next Thursday. And I think that'll be who have we got next Saturday? Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week to preview that one. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you soon.